This time it's what's new, and what's new is Softube Tape. And I love tape. Tape gives you that rubbery, bouncy ball, gluey saturation compression that works incredibly well on drums and basses, but also on the whole mix. And you can sort of pick and choose what you're going to give tape sound to. But you can't live without it because it's a very singular and unique effect, this tape thing. And we're always excited at the school when new tape plugin comes out, and we always like to sort of shoot it out against our current favorites and see how it fits into our system. We love the Studer Oxide ATR from Universal Audio, but in a really, really big mix, it can be difficult to get as much tape as you want running virtually. And up to now, we've been using Slate. But here we have this new Softube, and it really is designed to be DSP efficient, and you can have lots and lots of instances. So if you have a 48 track mix or a 64 track mix, you can have as much tape as you want. And we're always looking for things like that. And I have to say, I'm a hater, but I love this thing. It's super cool, lots of different flavors and lots of different possibilities. So let's take a look here. The metering is very simple. You can look at the input drive, or you can look at the total harmonic distortion. The amount is the amount of tape compression and saturation. And then there's three different machines that they sort of modeled or were inspired by. A is a Studer, Swiss Studer. B is, I think, it's a Ampex machine. And C is an old EMI British tape machine. And they're all a little bit different. B being by far the fattest in the low end because they modeled a machine with a transformer. So it could be the Ampex, I don't know. And over here, we have different tape speeds. And a couple really rare ones, like 1 1/8 and 3 1/4. And 7.5 we've seen in Oxide from Universal Audio. 15 inches per second, which is the way we like to run the ATR from Universal Audio, and then 30 inches per second. And, tape speed is very machine dependent. Sometimes on certain plugins, 15 sounds great, and sometimes 30 sounds better. So it's not necessarily just such a linear thing. When the tape is spinning faster, there's generally a better high frequency response. And when it's going slower, because you're not getting as many high frequencies, there's a more pronounced low end effect. So, again, it's all quite situational. And then if you click here on this sidebar panel, very ergonomically, it slides things over, and you have some more controls. You have a dry wet, which is very rare in a tape plugin that you have a wet dry mix. And I think very smart. Maybe they'll set a trend with that one. There's speed stability, which is, just as tape wears and sometimes winds unevenly on the spool, you get a little bit of modulation and a little bit of warbliness. So you can go wobbly or stable. Most of the time, I think you want it to be stable unless you're going for some super retro kind of sound. Here's a high frequency trim that's not just a trim, it's a boost or a cut of the high frequencies. So you could warm it up by rolling some high end off, or you could open it up by boosting some high end. Again, this is your taste, whatever you want. And then this is the coolest part of the whole thing down here is the crosstalk. Now, typically crosstalk is a bad thing. We, back in the 90s, lots of tape machines that we were working on in New York City, and if your kick drum was next to your bass drum on your analog tape, they would bleed back and forth, and it used to drive us nuts. So crosstalk was a bad thing, but now as a creative tool, it seems like it's a really good thing. And this was the plugin that really opened my eyes to the possibilities of crosstalk. It can sort of perhaps mono it as it's cross-feeding the left into the right and the right into the left of a stereo signal. But it does something analog-y and it does something cool. And I never loved crosstalk until I started playing with this. So I thought that was very innovative of Softube in an old school kind of way. And also, sometimes tape machines don't have very nice input and output controls, and this one does. You can have noise on or off. I'm a noise on guy. Usually, unless it's a mastering situation, I will turn it off. But on individual channels, a little bit of noise creates this constant air. You can hear noise, tape hiss on Radiohead songs. It's not a bad thing. So you could turn that on or off. And then it has this super dope run and stop effects, which are really cool. So anyway, with all that talking, let's give it a listen, a little bit of a test drive. You can hear some of the flavors. Lots and lots of possibilities here. So that's just the amount there, and we're on A at 15 inches per second. I always like to overdrive things just to see what it sounds like when you overdrive them. And you get that kind of farting sound, is what people call it, the tape farting sound, which again, if that's what you're going for, that's cool. But I always like to hear, and see where too much is. So that's a little bit of A. Let's flip through the flavors, and we'll also check some tape speeds. And your ear will gradually sort of attune itself and start to hear the differences. I think A is the sort of medium flavor here. B is the fat flavor, and C is sort of the retro thin flavor. And of course, they're going to react differently as well to different tape speeds. So it is sort of, as the knob indicates, it goes from brightest, which is 30, to a little less bright, to a little less bright, to all the way to 1 1/8, which is like super retro crunchy. Could be cool, who knows, for intro or some kind of crazy thing. But lots of different flavors in not only the colors, but the tape speed is a big influence here. All right, so let's check out some of these, what I would call these expert mode remote controls here on the right. And having a wet dry mix is super cool. You just don't see that very often. And I think that there's a great use for it, actually. So I appreciate they did that. Let's see if we can hear a little bit of what this stability sounds like. Definitely much more clear with the stable, a little more woolly with the wobbly. Woolly with the wobbly. And here's just a nice, cool tone control, this high frequency trim. Just a nice way to brighten it up or darken it a little bit. I like it a little more open on my drums, but it's your taste wherever you end up. And here for the finale, the super cool part, the crosstalk. Look what this thing does. This was a new discovery to me. It adds a ridiculous fatness that's just fantastic. I guess it's sort of monoing it a little bit, but I think it's doing it in some kind of very analogy, non-linear way. And I am a fan. It makes it pound. It's dope. So there's your crosstalk. Very, fantastic. Here's noise on and off. There's a little brightness that comes with the noise that I think is a nice sort of constant air. And then for the grand finale, input and output levels are there. You can set those to taste. Here, I love that they added this. It's the only plugin that I've seen that has this built in. And, you might not use it every single time you're mixing, but I'm sure you could fit in a couple of these. So check it out. That is so fun. I could do that all day. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I really, really like this plugin. We've put it into our system. It really compared well to the current ones we're using. If you need a real systematic workflow for mixing and mastering, Mixing Foundations at Mixmaster Academy is the best place to just get your saturation, reverb, EQ, compression game together. And if you have all that together, then there's Next Level Mixing 1 and Next Level Mixing 2, all kinds of multiband tools. We have lots of different courses, live trainings, and video self-study courses with live question and answer and live feedback every week. Something for every lifestyle. Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this. See you online. Cheers.